And joining us now, we're talking with Allen and Donna Stare. They are the creators of the WKRP Cast in the vast universe of podcasts. Maybe this is a great creation, certainly I've discovered yet, and I've been waiting a long, long time for it. Put together by fans who are as devoted as anybody I've ever seen to immersing themselves in what is one of the great and yet still unheralded sitcoms of all time, WKRP in Cincinnati. They both got their official station shirts on. And this is a podcast that's getting a lot of national attention. It is really catching on. We're going to talk about that coming up. But Allen and Donna, I want to go back to the beginning of this. And how did you decide that a more than 40-year-old television sitcom, it was never a Happy Days or Cosby Show powerhouse in the ratings, but that it needed to have the sort of detailed inspection usually reserved for TSA agents when you're flying internationally? How did this all come together?
A lot of this is boredom during the pandemic. In 2014, a group called Shout Factory did a beautiful restoration of the entire WKRP series. They attempted to restore all of the original music cuts, which had been replaced with generic cuts because they couldn't get licensing. So Shout Factory went in, replaced all of these things, restored these things, went back to the original source tapes, got some beautiful video. And in 2015, I bought that box set and put it on a shelf in my DVD case. In about May, I was cleaning out the DVD cabinet and came across that box set. And over the years, I have shown certain episodes to my daughter. I've pulled out and watched certain favorite episodes myself, but I never sat down and just went through and watched the entire series, all of them in order. And I wandered into the kitchen with the box in my hand and I said, Donna, I think I've got an idea for a podcast. And we sat down and talked about it for a while. And we spent most of the summer researching and prepping. One of the things we did not do was watch the series. We decided we wanted to approach it the way viewers were approaching it back in 1978. It was brand new. They only got to see one episode each week. So we only see the next episode. We're not watching ahead. And it's been several years since I've seen all of them. And I don't know that I've ever actually seen every single episode because I was watching them when they were in syndication.
Out of all the sitcoms you could have chosen in the vast history of television, what this one that jumped out to you and said, this is the one that I want to dissect in unprecedented detail? Why WKRP in Cincinnati?
Well, in 1978, I was watching that very first WKRP pilot when it came on the air. And for 2 years was a diehard, devoted WKRP fan. We do mention it a couple of times in the podcast. I would skip scout meetings on Monday nights to stay home and watch WKRP because there was no such thing as a VCR. You had to be there when it was on. So I suddenly had stomach aches and head colds on Monday nights. I couldn't get to scouts. I had to see MASH and WKRP. So about 2 years after KRP came on the air, I got hired at my first radio station 3 months before my 16th birthday. And I walked into that radio station knowing everything I know about radio from watching 2 years of WKRP. It was a big part of the reason I wanted to get in radio. And I've been doing nothing but radio, audio, and advertising for 40 years now. And a lot of that was because of WKRP.
Well, and I'm the same way. I was about the same age, and even though I was a little bit later start in radio, I knew even then that I wanted to, and I fell in love with the show from the very beginning, having no idea if it was actually an accurate depiction of a radio station. As it turns out, it may be the most accurate depiction of a radio station ever committed to videotape.
We are working really hard right now to try and get in touch with Frank Bonner. I believe Herb Tarlick is the most realistic character on that show. I've worked for Herb Tarlick. I've worked with Herb Tarlick. I've sat across the table from Herb Tarlick in negotiations. Herb Tarlick is everywhere in radio.
But by the way, I am dressed today. The shirt that I wore is if Herb Tarlick sport coats became a dress shirt, this would be it. So that's why I chose this particular shirt today.
Professional alert.
And we're going to come back to that too. There's so many great aspects to this podcast. Donna, I want to bring you into this. Alan obviously is a veteran radio guy. I understand why he is devoted to this. But you're an important part of this podcast too. How did you become so integral to all of this?
Well, I do the research, a lot of the research, and look things up. If we see posters, we try to find what they're posters from, if they're posters on the wall of the studio. When they mention old commercials and things, I do the research on those, and we find some original cuts of the commercials to edit into the show. And also, I decided if I ever wanted to see my husband again, I better get involved.
And I love that. And I know you talk about this in each one of your episodes, that kind of attention to detail, whether a radio studio could really function the way it's laid out on the show. Do they have the right equipment to do all the things they want to do? You mentioned the posters. One of the most exciting things for me growing up was I was a huge ELO fan, and to see ELO posters on the wall of the program director's office, the great Andy Travis, as played by Gary Sandy. And so you look at all of these things and all of those minute details there. Now, as the podcast has come together, it's the two of you, and you're the stars of this, and we'll talk about how it all lays out. But you also bring in guests. Who have you landed so far, and who, other than Frank Bonner, who played the legendary Herb Tarlick, who's still on your wish list?
Well, we have a pretty solid connection right now to Gary Sandy's publicist and coordinator for his personal appearances. We got in touch with her like the week before Thanksgiving, and she said, "Oh, no. We are so busy with Turkey's interviews right now. Absolutely not." And I said, "Oh, it's not turkeys. It's not turkeys. We're talking whole show. We're going to be doing this for a couple of years, and we want to talk to Andy Travis. We really, really do." So she is very positive, and actually they have listened. She said that Gary's listened to the show. She's listened to the show. They love it. They think we're doing a great job, and Gary's very interested in being a part of it. So we're excited about that. Haven't heard anything back from Frank Bonner. We've had a couple of connections with him. We found his daughter on Facebook, and Frank's actual real name is Boers, Boers. So she goes by hyphenated Boers and then her married name. So actually one of our fans of the podcast tipped us to his daughter. And we've gotten a lot of those kinds of inputs. We have tapped into this group of KRP fans out there who were very standoffish the first couple of weeks. And once they started listening to what we were doing and deciding, hey, wow, these guys are serious, they're fans, and they're really finding some fun details, they started tuning in and not only listening, but starting to support us and give us all of these connections and information. And it's been really a lot of fun having that kind of stuff start to grow.
You hit on a great point, the fact that everybody talks about WKRP late in the year around Thanksgiving, because one of the most indelible television moments in history was the notorious Thanksgiving episode of WKRP in Cincinnati. And so everybody wants to talk about it then. But as you said, you guys are in this for the long haul, year round, for the duration of the series. And this series is so rich in detail. And Donna, I want to bring you back into this for some of the additional features that you add into each episode, focusing on Herb Tarlick, the sales manager, focusing on my personal idol as the news director here at the radio station, the one and only Les Nessman, winner of the Silver Sow Award. And you have really devoted in each episode to very special targeted looks at these characters. Tell me about it.
Yes, well, as with Herb Tarlick, we have the Tarlick fashion alert every episode. Sometimes we're lucky and get 2 or 3 alerts if the episode goes more than one day and he changes clothes. But
and by the way, have you found out where they found some of these sport coats and things? Because I mean, I lived in the 70s. I know it was a horrible time for fashion, but my God.
People send us these ads from the 70s showing these clothes in ads. They were real.
In like magazine pages and stuff with the ads. They really did exist.
And then for Les, this is a great thing too. You have a similar feature for Les Nessman each week.
the Les Nessman bandage report. And the Les Nessman has a bandage somewhere on his person every episode, and it's been in a different spot so far every time. So we're curious to see how he finds a different place for each episode for a bandage.
And actually, Jim, we tell the story of Les's bandage and how that came about in pilot part 1, and decided, well, we need to track this. So we started the bandage report, and that's Donna's job every week. She's identifying where that bandage is.
It's my mission.
She has actually started to put them on a spreadsheet so we can tell if Les is repeating spots, if he's going back to the same spot for a bandage.
And we do the same for the fashion alerts, and we have some repetition in some of the clothes that Herb's been wearing.
We figured now, there only too many clothes in the closet, you know.
With the couple of minutes left, I'm going to do a little bit rapid fire here. Do either of you have a favorite character among the rich tapestry of the employees of WKRP in Cincinnati?
I love Les Nessman. He's my man.
Yeah,
I have a
more music and Les Nessman.
More music and Les Nessman. I have a huge crush on Bailey Quarters, but for fun, entertainment, and overall excitement, I'm a Herb guy all the way. I love Herb. Anytime Herb comes on the screen, it lights up, and I know I'm going to get a laugh out of Herb.
Well, and you led into my next point, which is that I think our generation's Ginger versus Mary Ann was Jennifer versus Bailey. I'm Team Bailey all the way. Clearly, you are as well. But what are you hearing from the fan base?
It's heavily Bailey.
Yeah.
Actually, somebody put on one of the fan pages just in the last couple of days, okay, can we stop posting how much we love turkeys away and get back to lusting over Bailey? So.
And Alan loved Bailey so much, he had a bunny rabbit in college that he named Bailey.
Yes. So she's known about this obsession for years.
Now, I want to make sure people know where to find the podcast, but we also want to acknowledge, and the reason we've got you here is the fact that you are really getting national recognition and that the numbers are really starting to take off for this. Tell me recently about how this has been categorized around the country in terms of the reception of the WKRP cast.
Well, we are considered a TV and film review podcast. That is the chart that we show up on Apple Podcasts. And there are over 1 million actual podcasts out there and about 15 million episodes of podcasts out there. So standing out is difficult. We have been trending the last few weeks on that TV and film chart with Apple Podcasts, which is a national chart. There is also a group called Podcast Magazine, which bases their chart. They have a Hot 50 chart. They base that on national download numbers, but they also open it up to voting from fans. We wound up, kind of unbeknownst to us, on that chart for December at number 21. Wow. So now we're featured on that. We actually got to send them clips. They do a Casey Kasem AT40 style countdown each month and include clips from shows. So we sent them clips of our show. That hopefully they're going to include those in the countdown. So that's been very exciting to be a part of that for December.
And so we want to encourage people to check it out. Again, each one of these episodes, it is loaded with clips of the show, details about the music that was played on the original episodes. I learned so much, and I consider myself a bit of a TV geek, and man, did I learn things I had no idea about. It's incredibly educational, also very entertaining. How do people find your podcast?
We are on every major podcast server out there. If you've ever listened to a podcast, you should be able to find us wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on like 29 of them. Primarily, the big ones are Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. But then we're on Podchaser and Deezer, and there are all kinds of these weird little ones out there that when you get on the main ones, you get picked up on all of the side ones. And since we're a podcast that's actually getting a lot of downloads, we get listed on a lot of these directories. So wherever you get your podcast, you're going to be able to find us. Just do a search for WKRP Cast. But you can also go to our Facebook page at WKRP Cast, and we always have links to the latest shows up there.
Allen and Donna Stare reside in Jacksonville, but again, now getting global attention for taking us back in time to the golden radio days of WKRP in Cincinnati. Listen, thank you both so much. Great to talk to you. Congratulations on the success, and I can't wait to dive into more episodes of the WKRP cast. Thanks again.
No, we're glad to have you as a listener. Thank you so much for
Thank
talking
you.
to us.